Fallout Equestria Survivors Guild, Chapter 10, Part 2.
Jade and myself will go to my office in order to talk about the Alliance,
Silverlining said as we walked through the large gear-shaped door.
Blue, do you mind showing our guests around? Perhaps, show them the museum.
Yes, ma'am, the Blue Unicorn said as Silverlining and Jade walked off towards the atrium. So, would you like to see the museum then?
I'd like to know what's going on in the stable,
I said with a tone of finality in my voice.
Something about this place feels weird. What exactly is this project that the overmare mentioned?
Oh, yes, that, Blue said as he sighed. Here, come with me, and I'll explain everything.
What kind of museum is it?
Serenity asked curiously, and she and Pureheart walked closer to each other as we followed Blue. Well, one with relics from before the war that Stable 122 has been meticulously preserving for the past 200 years, Blue said as we walked along the atrium towards our destination.
Well, this could be interesting. I'm curious to see what you have,
I said, though I wasn't sure what it could be. As I said before, Stable 122 wasn't built for anything more than a population experiment, so the whole thing was weird. Blue opened the door marked Museum as we entered. We've preserved very special relics from before the war for our Stable's special project, as dictated by StableTech itself.
Blue, I don't know what you've been told about,
I started to say when I suddenly froze at just what I saw what was being kept in this museum. Curled up in a state of suspended animation was a lavender-colored alicorn mare. She had a medium-length dark mane with streaks of purple in it. I looked around the rest of the room and saw 5 more ponies in a similar state. They all looked so familiar. Stable 122 housed clones of the Ministry mares. So, as you can see, the 6 mares are still perfectly preserved after 200 years, Blue said as he motioned towards the unconscious ponies. As dictated by StableTech, we've been using their genetic material to enhance ponies and—
This wasn't the purpose of Stable 122,
I said as I finally found my voice again. What are you talking about? Blue said, and he looked confused. I mean, I didn't blame him, I was confused too. I mean, Stable 122 has always been like this ever since the door closed after the apocalypse. The records show that these clones were placed here. You should know given who you are.
I don't know what you've been told, but personally, I oversaw every experiment's formation. This one was never one of them,
I said through gritted teeth.
This isn't right. I want them freed now. I'm exercising my right as the vice president of StableTech and shutting this down now.
With that, I turned around and stormed out of the museum. I couldn't look at that room again. Right now, I just leaned over the railing of the atrium's top floor, breathing heavily as I just tried to figure out what was going on. This wasn't right. Stable 122 hadn't been constructed with this purpose at all. What had changed? Something about this was weird, and it scared me a little. Was it possibly there was some rogue element in StableTech that did this? Within the ministries? Something else entirely? Stable 122 had survived, but what happened here? This wasn't right.
Scoodaloo, are you alright?
A soft voice asked from behind me, and I turned to see Cherry and Serenity standing there.
I don't know, to be honest,
I admitted.
It feels wrong, not just because of what they did, but because of who they are in there. The Ministry mares were once the greatest heroes Equestria ever knew. They did things we could only dream of, and one in particular, she was special to me, and I lost her. Do you mean Rainbow Dash?
Serenity asked, and I nodded as she took a seat next to me.
It's okay. I understand that. Remember when we first met? Yeah, how could I forget that?
I said with a sad smile as I wrapped my wing around the filly.
So, are you saying this is like then? Yeah, Scoodaloo, it really is,
Serenity said.
When I saw you, I was really excited because I had my big sister back, but you weren't her, and that hurt more than anything else. I'd hoped that anything that you were was really her. And now that you know me, I'm glad I got to know you,
Serenity said with a smile.
You remind me a lot like her, but you're different. You set out to do what was right, to help ponies that need it and make up for your own mistakes. That makes you a hero in my book.
I blinked a little. She considered me a hero? I never really had thought about that myself as one ever since I had woken up. I mean, sure, I was trying to do the right thing, but ultimately, I was just doing it to make up for my own mistakes. Was I really a hero?
Thanks, Serenity,
I said, and I hugged the filly again. If she felt that way, maybe she was right. I just wished more ponies agreed with her.
So, what do you think, Jerry? I think Serenity is right, to be honest.
Jerry said.
I saw what you did in Stable 48. You never hesitated to help wherever you could. I know that if you could have, you would have gotten every pony in there out from under the Enclave's rule. You're a better pony than any pony I've ever met. And I said, I don't care what you did in the past, and I meant it.
I smiled and nodded.
Okay, now I just have to figure out what to do here. I mean, even if they are clones, they're still living beings. They deserve a chance to live their lives instead of just being trapped in suspended animation.
You'll have to talk to Silver Lining about that, the stallion's voice said, and I looked to see Blue coming out of the museum. Officially, we aren't supposed to stop it until we get word from Stable-Tech.
Yeah, kinda hard when I'm the only pony left who could shut it.
I started to say, then mentally kicked myself.
Wait, do you think she'd listen?
Honestly, I don't know, Blue admitted. It's worth a try at least, but statistically, I'd say you don't have a high enough chance even with your standing in Stable-Tech.
Well, no pony said it would ever be easy,
I said, and I released Serenity as I got to my hooves.
Alright, I'll at least try.
I paused outside of the Overmare's office a few minutes later. Jade was still inside talking to her about the Alliance, and I didn't want to do anything to jeopardize that. I sat down outside and waited for them to finish. I looked out at the stable and saw more ponies walking around of all shapes and sizes. It was weird, but Stable 122 had actually kinda worked. From what I could see, it had actually been opened up to the wasteland and ponies were welcome to come in whenever they wanted. Mind you, they still did genetic experiments. I mean, why did it seem like every pony thought that genetic engineering was the key to everything? And who had ordered the stable's experiment to be changed? I knew that it couldn't have been any of us, and I didn't like the fact that some pony had messed with a stable like this.
Alright, I'll talk to you again in a few hours. I want to speak with the others about this,
Jade said as she walked out of the office, and she gave me a quick nod.
So, what do they want? They offered enhancements to ponies who would be compatible with them,
Jade said with a sigh.
And the assistance of the ones that are already enhanced, so that's something at least, but I don't know. I know what you mean.
I nodded in understanding.
I need to talk to her about that, to be honest. Just when you think you've seen everything in the wasteland can throw at you, it throws you another curveball, huh? Yeah. Hey, I'll talk to you later,
I said as I entered the office. Silver Lining looked up at me and put down the paper she had been looking at.
I must say, when I heard the vice president of Stable-Tech was still alive, I wasn't expecting her to show up here. I'm full of surprises,
I said as I took a seat.
So, I wanted to talk to you about the clones and the experiments. Oh, yes, of course. It's been working perfectly for the last 200 years,
Silver Lining said with a beaming smile.
So, our most recent enhanced ponies are amongst the first to actually get out there and help the wasteland, as orders from Stable-Tech dictated, of course. I'm sure you will be pleased with the progress that we made, although we have had difficulty increasing agility from Rainbow Dash's DNA.
How did that even work? From what I knew, this stuff wasn't genetic, but if it worked as well as she claimed it did, there wasn't much I could do about it.
I see,
I said, and I shook my head a little.
But the wasteland has just been surviving fine without the enhancements. They've survived some of the worst things imaginable, based on pony ingenuity and skill alone. Is the experiment really necessary at this point? Well, the NCR has consistently been only interested in its own territory,
Silver Lining pointed out.
So, during the war with the Crimson Empire, they focused their attention on New Orleans until the Fire Rain was broken, and never came to the aid of ponies that needed their help in the Imperial territory. My village was burned to the ground by the Empire, and I barely escaped with my life.
Oh, dear Celestia, now everything made a little more sense. She blamed the NCR for the loss of her village. That was gonna be hard on any pony.
I'm sorry about your village, Silver Lining,
I said with a shake of my head. I thought back to what I had read about the war. The Empire had been brutal. In particular, when General Black Sun had gone on a rampage.
But you can't completely blame the NCR for that. I mean, they had no way of knowing what was going on this far away because they, for the most part, had to fight a defensive war. There are a lot of good ponies out there that want to help Equestria. Then, they should have been there for my home,
Silver Lining said with a shake of her head.
The NCR may have had the best of intentions, but they can't do enough to help Equestria. Not in the way it needs to be helped. Not even Nomad City is that powerful. They can't be everywhere at once. Neither can your enhanced ponies,
I pointed out, but I was starting to get the idea of what kind of pony Silver Lining was.
So what? You want to defend Equestria, but at what cost? I made a lot of hard choices during the war because I felt they were the right thing to do, and it cost me everything I cared about. The fact is that Equestria needs defenders, ponies with skills and strengths beyond the average pony. This project is the best chance to pull that off. Why else would you have created it?
I paused for a long moment. This was the part I was dreading. I had to tell her the truth. It was inevitable that she would learn it anyway.
Silver Lining. So, Stable 122 was never outfitted with clones, or the experiment that would be required to do such a thing,
I slowly said, which made the mayor's eyes go wide.
Not by Stable Tech at least. We never authorized any such experiments. This was supposed to be an experiment on sustaining population.
The overmare and I sat in silence for a long moment. Was she gonna believe me? This system had been going in place for over 200 years now, and I was telling them that it had all been a lie created by some pony unknown.
Are you sure about that?
Silver Lining finally asked.
I committed every experiment in the stables to memory. There's no doubt about it,
I answered with a shake of my head.
Some pony is using the stable for something else, and until the truth can be revealed, we need to shut the experiment down. No more enhancements, and free the clones. The clones? Why? Because they are living beings,
I said with a little more force than I had intended.
They have rights like any pony else does, and it's not fair to them that they are just used for this project. The closest thing we created was Project Legacy, and that was intended to create new ponies and have them leave their home stable to help the wasteland. Well, okay, don't you see the opportunity we have here?
Silver Lining said.
There are ponies out there that could be helped by these enhancements. In fact, you yourself could be eligible for enhancement. Imagine it, being stronger, faster, or smarter than before. And what would I have to do in return? Take part in your little experiment here? No, of course not,
Silver Lining said.
You merely have to agree to help Equestria with your new enhancements. I'm sure that's more than a fair request for, well, a mayor such as yourself.
I paused for a moment. That actually was a pretty good deal, and it required very little sacrifice on my part, other than getting some genetic enhancements. Maybe it was something I could do. It would at least be very helpful in my goal of helping Equestria. And plus, there was something else I could get out of this. Something even more important.
Under one condition,
I finally said.
Oh, well, name it. Let the clones out of suspended animation permanently,
I said with a hard look at the overmare.
If you agree to that, then I'll participate in your little experiment. So, do we have a deal?
Silver Lining paused for a long moment after that. I can imagine that she was weighing the possibilities in her mind. This wasn't an easy decision for either of us. We were both being asked to make sacrifices, but we'd both get something we wanted out of it. I didn't want to admit it to her, but maybe this was a little selfish of me, just a little. There was a Rainbow Dash clone in there, even if she wasn't the same Rainbow Dash who had been my sister, had been my mother. I felt like I owed it to her, to get her out of it. I just had to hope that Silver Lining would agree.
Alright, you have a deal,
Silver Lining said and offered me a hoof, to which I shook.
So, I'll need a piece of your fur to check for genetic compatibility. Oh, okay, just give me a— Ow!
I said as she yanked out a hair from my mane.
You could have been a little more gentle, you know. I need to make sure to get a root. You'll be fine. The results should be back in a couple of hours,
she said and got her hooves and walked out of the office, with me not too far behind. I just hoped that I wasn't making a big mistake by agreeing to this.